Hey folks, I'm going to be out of town for a few days, so this week's and next week's videos are going to have a common theme. That theme being the 300,000 subscriber YouTube channel, RK Outpost, and by extension, those who associate with its owner, Ryan Kinel. Today, we'll be covering a fairly simple subject: honesty. Specifically, honesty in advertising. From memory, I believe I've seen Ryan say that he's a Christian, but a quick Google search didn't pull up any specific instances of him saying that. And then I remembered it actually doesn't matter. I don't need to convince you that lying is bad because stone tablets say not to do it. So from this moment onward, it is the official position of Edgier Than Thou Incorporated that lying is wrong. Whether he's a Christian or not, it's bad that Ryan is a liar. I will be assuming this for the rest of the video, so if we disagree on that fundamental issue, you can feel free to click off now. Anyhow, if you weren't already aware, Ryan Kinel is an anti-woke YouTuber who uploads an average of about 7 clickbait videos per week. For those at home, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 1 a day. Each of these videos uses catchy keywords and phrases to entice YouTube users to click and give him that sweet, delicious ad revenue. This in itself is fine. However, I specifically describe these videos as clickbait because their titles tend to try and make a mountain out of a molehill. For instance, in the last 3 months, Ryan has published, by my count, at least 7 videos whose primary purpose is to communicate that Marvel's Thunderbolts was financially unsuccessful. Interestingly, fans of Ryan are somewhat likely to pop up in my comments and tell me I'm obsessed with him because I discussed him twice in January. I don't know why, but that felt relevant. Hopefully you and I both agree that while 6 videos on how many dollars a movie made is entirely reasonable, 7 is perhaps stretching the importance of the subject. But more important than this repetition of subject matter is the subject matter itself, or often lack thereof. See, Ryan has a habit of taking incredibly normal, banal happenings and turning them into important, monetizable moments. An easy example of this: before the release of Thunderbolts, Scarlett Johansson asked for her executive producer credit to be removed as she had done no work on the film. This fact was later revealed in an interview where she was directly prompted by David Harbour to discuss her EP credit, directing her to note that she actually wasn't an executive producer. This is important context as it demonstrates that Johansson was not volunteering this information out of nowhere. Ryan Kinel, however, reported the interview like this: Scarlett Johansson wants nothing to do with Marvel. Ask for credit removed from Thunderbolts, with a little quote blurb of her saying, "Fuck this movie." In this video, Ryan primarily reads out from a Variety article, linked below as always, detailing essentially the information I've given you, plus some stuff about the demands of working in a cinematic universe. One thing we could do here is contrast what was actually said with Ryan's thumbnail's version of events. Scarlett Johansson responded to a conversational prompt with a small piece of personal information that contained no value judgments of any kind. This, unfortunately, is not good clickbait. So, in response, Ryan did a little fib. He falsified a quote from Johansson and turned her seemingly principled stance on not being credited for work you didn't do into a major statement against Disney. Everything about this is nothing less than a lie. I know I've discussed this subject before, but I think this bears repeating. In principle, I think clickbait is mostly fine, so long as you accurately represent the contents of your work, or at least present an idea that your work will subvert. If you title your video, "You Won't Believe What X Celebrity Said in a Denny's Parking Lot," and the ensuing video contains a genuinely shocking quote from that celebrity in a Denny's parking lot, I might find it a bit trashy, but you've met the bar of honesty. Similarly, if your video instead contained a sincere discussion of how tabloids and clickbait have impacted culture, you'd also be fine. While your video didn't contain the contents of its title, it's clear that what it did contain followed as a logical progression from the title. What I will not abide is a video titled "You Won't Believe What X Celebrity Said in a Denny's Parking Lot" that goes on to show absolutely nothing of note whatsoever, followed by a request to like and subscribe. In this circumstance, the video's creator has done a lie. And lest you think this is an isolated incident, Ryan's channel is covered in this kind of dishonesty that you may not fully realize unless you actually click on the videos. For a Small Potatoes example, the video "Neil Druckmann Gone After Last of Us Season 2 Disaster" claims Druckmann was fired by HBO and says it's over for him. You will not find any evidence of this in the actual video, however. While I have no love in my heart for Neil Druckmann, all we know about his decision to leave the show is that he has other large projects to work on at Naughty Dog that he'd rather be working on. Ryan, however, without evidence, claims that this was likely a termination because, of course, that fits his worldview. So a viewer will have seen Neil Druckmann fired, confidently placed in the thumbnail, clicked on the video, and gotten, I don't know, he could have been, maybe he was, I don't know, he could have been fired. Similarly, the video he posted immediately prior to the Druckmann video also contains an explicit lie. Scarlett Johansson is quoted in Scarlett Johansson is tired of the male gaze as saying, "Don't look at me." This quote, of course, does not appear in the video in any way, shape, or form. We've covered similar interviews before, back when I was filming with an iPhone in front of a window for some reason, but in each case, Johansson says she feels as though she was boxed into specific, overly sexual types of roles early in her career, and is now grateful that she can branch out and play characters with more background and agency.
Scarlett Johansson has opened up on how roles have changed for women in Hollywood. In a recent interview with the Times of London, Johansson said when she first entered the industry, the roles she was offered were usually centered around desirability and the goals and needs of her male counterparts. However, she thinks the Hollywood of today is ushering in a different time for young women. Well, one, if that's true, might not be the best step considering the downtick we've seen in Hollywood, considering the struggles that Hollywood's having, considering the struggles the entertainment industry is having on streaming, in the theaters, everywhere. Maybe if that's one of the key changes, let's think about going back.
And I bring those specifics up now because I can envision one possible refutation to what I've said here. That being, oh, the quote bubbles aren't meant to be literal, they're just funny quips that capture the essence of Ryan's video. To which I would respond, 1, what a pathetic cop-out, don't claim shit to be true unless you're going to defend it. 2, in no way does a Ryan Kinel video have essence. And 3, the quoted line is nowhere even close to what Johansson said. It's a fake quote written by a fake man to attract gullible idiots. That's all it is. The video, "It's the fans' fault that Fantastic Four is flopping for Marvel," actually does contain someone essentially making that point. So at least in those terms, this almost seems like honest advertising. However, the thumbnail attributes the quote, "blame the fans," to Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, a person who does not feature in this video in any way. The title tells you that someone is going to blame the fans for Fantastic Four's weak box office, and the thumbnail tells you that someone will be Kevin Feige. When you watch the video, you will instead be met with quotes from random film critics and Twitter users, none of whom are Marvel Studios executives. There's his video, "J.K. Rowling speaks out on Harry Potter casting," still silent on Black Snape, which is only slightly undercut by the fact that it came out after the video J.K. Rowling finally speaks out on Black Snape. So I guess she spoke out silently? And I can keep going on. Videos like James Gunn already doing damage control for Superman, Marvel's Ironheart disaster, "you're racist if you don't like it," and Superman star Rachel Brosnahan slams Dakota Johnson over Madane web excuses, all contain explicit falsehoods in the titles and thumbnails alone. Rest assured, we can make similar videos out of many of Ryan's contemporaries and associates. None of them are honest people, and they will readily falsify information to suit the narrative they want to craft. It just so happens that Ryan is worse at hiding it than some of the others, and for that reason, I think he makes a very good subject for this little 2-part series. This video has laid some of the groundwork for what we'll be discussing next week, or if you're a member/Patreon subscriber, today. Here I have successfully established that Ryan Kinel is a flagrant liar, posting explicitly false information far too often to have simply made dozens of honest mistakes. With that knowledge in mind, we'll be talking about his racism and related prejudices next. And since we know he's willing to make things up to defend his beliefs, we won't fall for any of the, "while I may act like a racist, attract racists, and boost racists, I'm not actually a racist," arguments that people in this camp like to push. Given what we know, when they say, "I'm not a racist, but," they're just lying. But more on that next week. Or now, if you join on Patreon/the membership deals. But otherwise, next week. Thanks for watching. Consider liking and the subscribing. And I forgot to mention earlier, but Ryan actually once admitted on camera to killing the Lindbergh baby. Continue watching my slop, and maybe at some point I'll consider substantiating that claim.